I'm Jill Foster and welcome to your next PB&J card class. Today we'll be making a set of ATCs or artist trading cards, and this set will feature the technique of using acrylic paints with your stamping. So that's the entire set, and this is the particular ATC that we'll be creating today. I'll be using Penny Black, Foliage Fancy, and Brick Wall in the creation of this ATC. So I've started with a 2.5 by 3.5 piece of grunge board, and I painted it just like I'm doing here with acrylic paints and my finger. So you'll see how lovely my fingers look throughout this video, but it's just a fast way and you don't have to clean any brushes, and I really like some of the texture you get from painting with your fingers. So I did part of that, and I'm just adding and layering colors, and then you can heat them with your heat gun in between so you don't have to wait too long for the paint to dry. So next I'm going to take my Foliage Fancy stamp, and I'm just deciding here which leaf I want to use. I'll put that on my acrylic block, and then I'll be inking and stamping this with archival black ink. And I'm just going to stamp it a couple of times. And you'll notice that the lines on the stamp are very fine and thin, so that when you have that in a stamp, the less pressure you apply, the more evenly that will stamp for you. So, and I'm just going to make sure this is completely dry before I add my next layer of acrylic paint. And here I'm just going to put the paint right from the tube onto my paintbrush, and I'm just painting right over the top of my stamping. So don't worry about when you're doing this if you're covering up any of the lines that you've already stamped, because we'll be going over these soon once this paint is dried. What I like about using the acrylics is that they're pretty opaque, so you can do your background first and then paint right over the top. As you'll see down on this leaf on the bottom right hand corner, I'm able to go over that darker bottom part of the background, and you can see that there. Now I want to add a little bit of shading, so I'm taking an off-white here and just feathering that down from the tip of the leaf. And again, don't worry when you do this if it covers up some of your stamping. Your first stamping is really your guide just to where to put your color. And then I'll do the same thing on the second leaf. So just feathering that in from the tip down towards the center. Now once those are done, I'm just going to take just a regular ballpoint pen, and I'm going to sketch over the lines that we stamped. So because this is a painted look, we want it to look really artsy, so just sketching right over the lines. It does not need to be perfect, but using those as a guide. So this way, if you've ever wanted to try painting but drawing isn't your thing, which is kind of how I feel, you can still do this and use your stamps and get right into the coloring and painting. You can see I'm just kind of working quickly as I sketch those lines on. I don't want it to be too perfect. And there you go, I did both leaves. Now I'm just going to add a little bit of distress ink around the edges. So this is Seedless Preserves, and I'm applying this with the applicator tool on the foam pad, just going around that outer edge. Sort of blending that out. And then I'll also add gathered twigs along the bottom. A little bit along the sides up at the top. Now we're ready to do some background stamping. So this is Penny Black Brick Wall, and I'm using Memento ink in the color of Morocco. I'm just going to ink that up, and I'm kind of just judging here about where those leaves are going to be, and then I'm going to pat that off with a fairly dry baby wipe before I lay it down onto the stamp, holding with one hand and rubbing with the other. So it's not perfect. Some will go on the leaves, but it keeps it from going completely over the top of the leaves. Now I wanted to add a little bit more background stamping, so I'm doing the same thing here with letter background. And on this one I am using Espresso Truffle Memento ink, and I'm just getting the corners just to darken that up a bit. And all I did was add a sentiment and some butterflies, and the ATC is finished. So on this next one I did the same thing. I stamped it first, painted in, and then went back over with a pen. And same on this as well. I added some white highlights using the Faber-Castell Stamper's big white pen. And on this one, this is a penny black brushstroke stamp. So I actually painted right onto the stamp, stamped it onto the ATC, and then added shading on top of that. Here's another look at the set. For details and more information, visit the Penny Black website, www.pennyblackink.com. Thanks for watching, and here's a list of all supplies used.